Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Happy New Year to all of you. It is the second day of 2023 when I'm filming this. I intended to have this up before now, but things got busy. But in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorites from 2022. I've got a couple products on this list, podcasts, books, and movies. So I'm going to share those with you, and then I'm also going to share with you my 2023 intentions or goals, whatever you would like to call them. So let's go ahead and get started. So starting off with the products portion of this video, my favorite perfume that I purchased this year, I've actually been wanting to purchase for a long time. It is the YSL Mon Paris. I actually got a sample bottle of this at the Belk perfume counter right before we got married, and it's the perfume that I wore on our wedding day. And so the smell just brings back the nostalgia from our wedding day, and I always wanted to buy it, but when I looked it up after our wedding and all, it was quite expensive, which is why I have put it off until now. But I finally bit the bullet because I found it on sale at Sephora this year, and so I ordered the little bottle, and as you can see, I've used a lot of it this year. I've been using it a little less frequently lately because I'm trying to spare what's left in this bottle because, like I said, it is kind of high. I think I was able to find it for $68 at Sephora, and that was cheaper than I have found it previously. So I'm hoping I can still find it on sale this year when I inevitably will run out of this. But it's kind of like a floral scent. It's just a very feminine, it's not musky. I don't like really musky scents. And I'm also don't tend to wear really fruity scents either. I don't really know how to describe it, but this to me smells really floral, very feminine, and I really love it, and a little bit goes a long way. And so that is one of my favorite top products of 2022. The next favorite product of 2022 is this mascara. It's the L'Oreal Paris Voluminous in Carbon Black. I actually went to repurchase this recently, and I accidentally bought the waterproof, which is still really good. It still really does the trick, but the problem is it is almost impossible to get off. And I don't like that. I did not mean to purchase the waterproof, but this is a really good mascara. I had previously used Mary Kay, I believe it was the Lash Intensity, and that was really good as well, but I ran out of that, and I didn't really have the time to wait, for another one to come in the mail. So I decided to just buy what I could find at Walmart, and I've always heard really good things about the L'Oreal Paris mascaras, and this one is really, really good. I have very short blonde eyelashes, and this helps them to show up a lot better. So I really, really like this mascara, and I highly recommend it. The last product that I'm going to talk about that was a favorite of mine in 2022 is not a beauty product. It's actually these Bluetooth headphones. Now, these were a affordable option. They are not, I'm sure, not as good as Beats headphones or anything, but these have worked extremely well for me as far as for what I wanted them for. I wanted to be able to put something on that would just kind of sit on my head. I don't like using the wired headphones while I am, cleaning and doing things around the house because they tend to snag on things and pull out of my ear. And we had some Bluetooth like earbud things, and they would really hurt my ears. So I wanted something that I could just put over my head that would stay in place, that was Bluetooth, that I could listen to my podcasts and my music on. So this, I'm not going to pronounce the name of these right, but I will link them down below. They have a really good battery life. They have a little charger that plugs into a wall adapter. The battery life lasts for a really long time on these. They come with a little case, and they can fold up. They can also extend if you need them to. My children did get a hold of these not long after I got them, and so there is something, you can't tell from the video, but there's something rattling in one of these. But I'm pretty sure it was from my children getting a hold of them, but it has not affected the function at all. I mean, buy at your own risk, read reviews, but I have really enjoyed these. I really liked these. I got these on sale on Prime Day, so they were on a good sale when I bought them. But I really like these. I think these are a very good alternative to something way more expensive, like Beats headphones are very expensive. This, I'm sure, is not as good as Beats headphones, but this is a very good buy, at least in my opinion it was. So this was one of my favorite things from 2022. So I'm going to talk about a couple of podcasts that I started listening to in 2022. The first one being the Homemaker Chic podcast. It is run by Angela Reed of Parisian Farm Girl and Shay Elliott of the Elliott Homestead. And I had heard of this podcast before, but I had never actually listened to it. And I followed Shay Elliott for a while, and then my mom put me onto Parisian Farm Girl, and so I was like, well, let me try out their podcast and see if I like it. And so I ended up going all the way back to the beginning of their episodes. I think they started the podcast in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So I went all the way back, and I've been listening to them in order. I'm still not caught up to where they are currently, but I enjoy listening to them. I listen to them quite frequently. I do take breaks here and there and listen to something else, but I go through periods of time where I will listen to them every single day. And the thing I love about their podcast is not only are they, trying to be a light and an encouragement to homemakers, and they have different guests on and they talk about different homemaking topics, but they are also their best friends. And so it's almost like listening to a conversation between two best friends. That's really what it's like. And it's really fun, and they make me laugh. And I really, really love to listen to their podcast. So that was a favorite podcast in 2022. Loved that one. And then also my friend Ashley from We Are the Homemakers on Instagram. I'm sure a lot of y'all follow her and know her, but she started a podcast. I was actually blessed to be able to be a guest on her podcast. I think that episode was back in May. In her podcast, she interviews a lot of lovely homemakers, and they talk about a lot of homemaking topics, so I definitely recommend that one as well. I don't feel like I did a ton of reading in 2022, which is something I do want to change in 2023, but I did go through a period where I was listening to audiobooks, and my two favorite books that I listened to or read, whichever you want to call them, on audiobook was the books by Jennifer L. Scott of Daily Connoisseur here on YouTube. She has books based around her time with a French family when she was a exchange student in college, and the two that I listened to was Lessons from Madame Chic and At Home with Madame Chic, and I loved both of those books so much. I highly recommend them, especially if you are a homemaker or a woman who just wants to up her game, style-wise, home-wise, all of that kind of thing. Those books were very inspiring. They were at times very convicting, and I just loved them. And I also do really love Jennifer's YouTube channel and her Instagram. She shares a lot of elegance tips and style tips and, all the things that combine with homemaking and being a stay-at-home homemaker. So definitely check her channel out. I will link all of that down in the description box down below, but those were my two favorite books of 2022. I tried to go back in my brain on all the movies that I watched in 2022, but I feel like I watched a lot of movies and it kind of gets fuzzy in my head. But I tried to think about the ones that I remember particularly enjoying. And so 3 of these are pretty old. One I think came out in 2022, and then the other one came out not too terribly long ago. So the first one is Gentlemen Prefer Blondes with Marilyn Monroe and I believe Jane Russell. I loved this movie. I thought it was cute. I loved the music in the movie. I loved the costumes in the movie. I actually got to go see it at a theater, not a movie theater, but a really pretty old theater where they have like the Nutcracker Ballet and they have performances. They do movies projected on a big screen, and so I got to see it at the theater, which just made the whole experience more enjoyable. But I did really like that movie and that experience too. I think that's another reason it sticks out in my mind a lot, but I definitely think that's worth the watch if you like old movies. The next one is Shop Around the Corner. This one was recommended to me from some of y'all on Instagram when I was looking for some old movies to watch. It's an old black and white movie. I think it's set around Christmas time. It's got Jimmy Stewart in it. It's a really good movie. It's really cute. It's a really cute little love story. And I did not realize, I watched You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan a long time ago, and I did not realize that they kind of took the story from Shop Around the Corner and kind of made their own rendition of it. And I think that the store that Meg Ryan runs in You've Got Mail is actually called the Shop Around the Corner. I didn't make that connection until after I watched the old Shop Around the Corner movie. It was really cute, really worth the watch, especially, like I said, if you like old movies, you will really like that one. I have a soft spot for Jimmy Stewart. I love Jimmy Stewart movies, so I really, really enjoyed that one. The next one is La La Land. This movie sticks out to me because I had very low expectations for it because it was, a modern musical, and I just, I like some older movies that are musicals, but I feel like typically I don't gravitate towards musicals. And because this was made in more recent times, I just did not have very high expectations for it, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I loved the music and the soundtrack. I loved the dancing. I loved the costumes. I loved the love story. And I don't want to spoil anything. I mean, the movie's been out for a while, so I don't want to spoil anything, but the ending is like, I guess it's like a realistic ending, and it will break your heart, but in a good way. I don't know how to explain that. You just need to watch the movie, but I very much enjoyed that movie, much more than I thought I would, and you will definitely be singing the song from the movie afterward. Okay, so intentions for 2023. As far as homemaking intentions for me this year, I guess homemaking / motherhood, I have really struggled for the last 2 years to get into a consistent routine, and that is, you know, a routine for myself, a routine for my children. I really struggled with that, and I guess I've been kind of stuck in the baby mindset because 2021 I had 2 babies and I was a little bit overwhelmed and struggling, and so I really struggled to find a routine. And so this year, one of my biggest goals or intentions is to establish a very solid daily routine. And I'm not going to share what it is or anything until I'm 100% sure that I'm going to be able to stick to it, or, you know, if I have to adjust it and all that. I don't want to share that on YouTube unless it's a rock solid routine. But today was the first day. But I want to establish a routine that is not only going to help me have time to not only get all the stuff done that I need to get done, but also to have time to do things for myself, like creative things, content related things, just personal things. I have some health and fitness intentions and goals for this year, as far as, you know, eating better and exercise and that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into all that because it's kind of boring for YouTube, but some of that, having time for some of that. I need a routine that allows me to, you know, that allows me to be able to balance work and then things that are aside from work, aside from housework and stuff. And then also a routine that helps me have some one-on-one learning time with my oldest, to work with him on some stuff. We're not technically starting homeschool yet because he's only 3, but some learning activities with him to help him, just, you know, some learning things, some craft projects, have time to do that kind of thing and not just feel like the day is chaos. So that's one of my big goals, is to just get in a very solid daily routine that has all the time allotted for things. And I know that, you know, as a mom with little kids and stuff, it's going to have to be flexible. So I don't necessarily want to put a time slot for everything, but I want to make sure that we are following some kind of a schedule on the daily so that the days just don't feel chaotic, because I don't feel like any of us thrive when things are chaotic. Another goal that I have for myself, I started banjo lessons in 2022. I don't know if that's something that I've talked about on YouTube or not, but I started taking banjo lessons in 2022. I have had a banjo for years and I've always wanted to learn it, and I just never dedicated the time to learning it and to taking lessons. And so I started lessons kind of towards the tail end of 2022, and I'm going to continue my lessons in 2023. And my goal is to get confident enough that I can actually play a song with my dad in church. Like, it makes me extremely nervous to think about playing in front of people, because I'm trying to learn how to play the banjo the correct way, and there's a lot, you know, in banjo with finger placement and the way you're supposed to pick with your fingers, and it's just, I just feel like there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of stuff going on that you have to pay attention to, and when you get really good at it, you're going to be able to do it effortlessly. I'll be able to do it effortlessly without thinking and without looking at my right hand, at what my right, because you're not supposed to look at what your right hand is doing when you're, you know, doing your chords and stuff. So it's just a lot, and so it really scares me to death to think about actually playing a song for people, but I have a goal this year to be confident enough and learn a song enough to where I can play it with my dad in church in front of people. So I will let you guys know if I get to that point. We took, my teacher needed a break in December, so we took December off of lessons, and we're going to start back up, not this week, but the next week. So I'm probably going to be rusty when I go back, but that is one of my goals. I have some other goals that I'm not necessarily going to really go into on here, but as far as my husband and I have some financial goals, like I said, I have some health and fitness goals. I have of course some goals as far as my content goes, you know, what I want to post on YouTube, what I want to post on Instagram. I have goals considering my bookshop that I have on Instagram. So I have goals in all of those areas that I'm not really going to go into. But something else that I have a goal for is I want to, as my heart as a homemaker, like it's something that I actually, the Homemaker Chic podcast, they did a whole season on hospitality and how hospitality goes beyond just hosting people in your home. Although, parentheses here, I do want to get better at my mindset when we host people, because we don't host people a whole lot here. I don't feel like we have a ton of gatherings where I actually need to be a hostess, but whenever we do host something here, I tend to stress out a lot, and I really need to work on my mindset when it comes to hosting things at our home and my hospitality within my home. But I want to look at, and I was inspired by the Homemaker Chic podcast, to look at hospitality as something that not only is inside your home, but is outside of your home. You know, reaching out to people, being a blessing to people, you know, sending out cards is something that I would like to do this year, you know, sending out cards to people that are sick or people that are grieving, you know, that kind of thing. I know some women that are incredibly good at sending out cards, like encouragement cards for people that they haven't seen in a while, that they know have been sick, and sympathy cards and get well cards that are just extremely good at that. And I just want to be, not just that I want to send cards, but I want to have my mindset to a place where I anticipate the needs of people and I consider the hearts of people and can reach out of my home in little ways. Now, I kind of came to a realization this year, something I also learned from the Homemaker Chic podcast, is that your home, your children primarily, your family is your ministry. Because I have had to let go of some things that I did before I had children as far as ministry goes, like things within the church that I did for a long time that I had to step back from because I just couldn't continue to do it with my children. And so something that I think Angela said on there was that, you know, your children are your ministry. Taking care of your children, like that's your ministry now. And that doesn't mean that we cannot serve outside of our family, and I still do serve in other ways in our church, but there are certain things that we just are not able to serve in right now. We're not able to do that right now because our family is now our priority. Not that we don't serve at all, because I do, but there are certain things that I've had to pull back on because I have children now. But my point is that just because you're not serving in the area that you were serving in, you're still serving the Lord by raising your family, because your family is now your ministry. But this also goes hand in hand with the hospitality thing, hospitality outside of your home. You can serve the Lord also outside of your home just by learning to have a heart of hospitality and a heart in the posture of wanting to serve other people and wanting to be a blessing to other people. And I think it is really easy for me to kind of get tunnel vision, because I have been rather overwhelmed over the last 2 or 3 years. And it can be really easy to get tunnel vision. There is also nothing wrong with serving the Lord within your home. One of my intentions for this year is to learn and look for ways to have that posture of hospitality, to have that, you know, desire to be an encouragement to people and to be a blessing to people outside of my 4 walls, while also serving the Lord within my home and looking at my family as a ministry, because it is. I know that that is something that our children will look at and see, and hopefully they will grab onto that and take that with them in life. I know that my dad said specifically when my grandmother passed away, he told the pastor specifically that he remembers that my grandmother, when somebody had passed away in somebody's home, my grandmother would make them a meal, and she would get my dad and they would go over and they would take that person a meal. And obviously that stuck in my dad's head. And my dad is a person that has a servant's heart. He has a servant's heart for people. And I think that is a very valuable thing to, to have in your heart, and to also pass to your children through example. So I hope that made sense. I don't feel like it did, but I hope it made sense. And just also to say, these are things that have been on my mind and on my heart that I am working towards. I have not arrived at any of it. It's just things that I am wanting to incorporate. Oh, I'm sorry, not my camera. Things that I want to incorporate into my heart, into my life, and into my family in 2023. Also, the one other thing that I did want to say, because I mentioned this earlier, is I do want to start reading more this year. I want to start making more time for reading and spend less time just mindlessly scrolling social media. And I feel like this is something that a lot of people feel, is that you spend a lot of time just mindlessly scrolling for no reason. Like, you're not posting anything, you're not interacting with anybody, you're just scrolling. And so I really want to replace some of that time with reading. I did start my first book of the year. I ordered this book on eBay, and it is called Wife Dressing: The Fine Art of Being a Well-Dressed Wife. This book is is pretty dated, but I do love reading about fashion and styling and that kind of thing. And so I'm enjoying it so far. But it is the first book of the year for me, and I just started it yesterday. I'm about that far. So, but I do want to start reading more, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, buy the book secondhand. I bought this really cheap. Once I read that one, then I will reward myself by finding myself another secondhand book that I can buy, that I can read, that I'm interested in. I already have the one that I'm going to buy next already in my brain. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope that it has either been inspiring or encouraging to you. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to thumbs up the video, as that does help my channel. Also, leave in the comments down below what your intentions and goals are for 2023. I hope that you all have a happy new year, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye!